All right, so today what we're doing is completing the square, 4-3. Let me go back a little bit. I've been saying this. We haven't gotten to the point where we know exactly what a parabola is, but anything that starts out with x squared, let's just say something like this. I'm just making this up. Okay, anything that starts out as x squared makes a parabola when you graph it. And so it is very important to try to figure out these points right here called our x-intercepts. Factoring does that, but not everything factors. Quadratic formula helps us figure out our x-intercepts, but sometimes that's too much of a pain. We have another method called completing the square. And those are pretty much the three methods of figuring out those x-intercepts. So we've gotten 2 of them done, and we're working on completing the square today. These x-intercepts are very important where that parabola crosses the x-axis. All right, so completing the square, this formula right here is super duper important. So hopefully on your notes, you have written 4-3, you have written the date, and you are ready to go. So write this down, b divided by 2, put parentheses around the whole thing, squared. That's going to be your lifeline today. Okay? So this is kind of the format. It's after we do the notes, that would make a little bit more sense. Okay, so here's the deal. We are trying, you notice this blank right here? Let me use a different color pen. Okay, this blank right here, we need something that will go here that will make this super easy to factor. With this 20 here, it's not quite as easy. So what we do is we punt, just kick this guy over here. So that's the first step, is move the c. Okay? Move the c value. Remember, you have ax squared plus bx plus c. There's your c value right there. Move the c to the other side. Okay? Now we need to identify, well, actually, I guess it doesn't matter. You can identify the b first, or you can move the c. I just move that c over first. That's usually what I do. Our b value is 8. Now that formula, that little bitty formula you wrote down a minute ago, is going to help you. You're using the b, so the b is very important. We're trying to find another number that's going to go here to make that factor easy. And everything we've done so far is a legal math move. Moving that 20 over is okay. You wouldn't have ever thought that, but it is. Okay, so 8 is our b. I'm going to plug it right here in the formula right there. Divided by 2, and we're going to square it. Whoops. Okay, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So that tells me we're going to put this 16 right here. But I can't just start adding things. If I do add things, I have to add them to both sides of the equal sign. Here's that equal sign, dividing this up into 2 sides. So if I add 16 here, I've got to add it here, and then that's okay. I can do that. I can just start adding stuff. I can divide stuff. I could do anything as long as I do it to both sides of the equal sign. Okay, now this is going to be super easy to factor right here. We're going to deal with this in a minute. If you want to go ahead and say that's 36, that's fine, because 20 and 16 is 36. Okay, x squared plus 8x plus 16 is, we're going to see what multiplies to 16 that adds to 8. You don't have to do grouping because you don't have a number here in the front. Okay, what multiplies to 16 that adds to 8? You have 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 and 4. Okay, so it's going to be 4 and 4, right? Okay, these are always going to be doubles. So it's going to be 3 and 3, it's going to be 4 and 4, it's going to be 5 and 5, or 6 and 6, or 7 and 7, or 1 and 1. So that makes it easy. That's what I like about completing the square, okay? If this is positive right here, the sign of the B is whatever these signs are. In a minute, we'll have one that's negative. And let me back up a minute. I think in Delta Math, if you have me for a teacher and you're watching this, in Delta Math, I have some questions that just simply ask you, what is this number right here? They just simply want you to do the formula right here. There's a few questions like that, okay? If that makes sense, okay? I think you'll see in a minute. It just wants you to do b divided by 2 squared and tell me what that number is. Okay, so back over here. Now, I'm seeing double. I don't want to see double, so I just write it once, but it's squared. And I bring this 36 down. Okay, so here's kind of a new part, but it's super easy. We're trying to figure out what that x is, guys. So we have to get rid of that squared, and we have to get rid of that 4. We're going to get rid of the squared first. To get rid of a squared, you do the opposite of squaring, which is square root. So if I square root that side to get rid of the squared, I have to square root this side too. Remember, we talked about that up here. Adding that 16 is okay if we add it to both sides. Well, taking the square root of this side is okay as long as we do it to this side. Okay? So now we got rid of that squared. So now we just have x plus 4. And we're going to go over more of this, inverse, like getting, that a square and a square root are the opposite of each other and they get rid of it down the road, but just not now. Then what's the square root of 36? It's 6, but it's really plus or minus 6. A negative 6 times a negative 6 is a 36, and a 6 times a 6 is a 36. So you have both the positive and the negative. Okay, then we're almost done. We're going to subtract 4. Now be careful here. I have a lot of kids that do it the opposite way, and it ends up okay, but I like to put the negative 4 first, then plus or minus 6. Now, we know we're most likely, I probably should have been over here a little bit, but I guess from here over, that would have given me more room. What was I going to say? Oh, I know what I was going to say. Remember, we have 2 answers. Most of the time, you have 2 answers. Sometimes you have a parabola that's doing this, and it only has one x-intercept. But most of the time, most parabolas have 2 answers. So we do negative 4 plus 6. I guess we could do that here. Negative 4 plus 6, and we get 2. And we're going to do negative 4 minus 6. We do the minus and we do the plus. And we get negative 10. So x is negative 10 and x is 2. So it's really not that bad. Okay? It's really not that bad. Give you a second to get caught up if you're taking notes. Remember, if you have a printer at home, there's a blank copy of these notes in Schoology, if you have me for a teacher. Okay. Okay, let's do another one. So don't worry about this 4. Don't move this 4 over here. If we were doing quadratic formula, we would move the 4 over here. But we're doing complete the square, so we move the 15 over here. We punt this over here, so we have a blank. We're going to have a blank. Okay, so I'm going to move 15 over. I'm going to recopy. Leave some space. Okay, if you want to draw a little blank there, you can. Okay, 4 minus 15 is negative 11, and I'm going to have a blank here too. Okay, because what I figure that goes here is also going to go here. So now we use our best friend in the whole wide world. Okay, b over 2 squared. And like I say, in Delta Math, there's a few questions that's all it's asking you to do. So b is negative 12. I am kind of noting that negative right there, okay? So negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6 squared, which is 36. I probably should have done this work over here to keep it out of the way. Let me redo that. Let me move that over there. This will be kind of our scratch work area over here. Okay, so we have b, whoops. I can't function. Okay, b divided by 2 squared. Your b is the number before the x, so negative 12, and you really don't have to use the negative because you're going to end up with a positive answer anyway, but it's up to you how you want to do it. Okay, negative 6 squared. A negative times a negative is a positive, okay? Remember that. We worked with that with the quadratic formula too. Okay, so we're going to add 36 here and add 36 here. This number will always be positive because it's something that's been squared. Anything squared is positive. Now we're going to factor, okay? So let's see, move the c. I didn't really do a good job writing down the steps. Do your b divided by 2 squared. Factor. I didn't write down the steps very good at the other one up there. I'll try to do better here. Okay, so what multiplies to 36 that adds to 12? It's going to be a double. It's going to be 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, or it's going to be 4 and 4, or it's going to be 5 and 5, or it's going to be 6 and 6. What is it going to be? It's going to be 6 and 6, right? 6 times 6 is 36, and 6 and 6 is 12. But this time, these two numbers have to add up to be a negative 12. So they're negatives. So whatever sign this is, it goes here. And I think I did that up here. I kind of told you about it, but you probably didn't really understand until we saw that one. So whatever this sign is here, it goes in your binomial factors. Okay? Okay, over here, 36 minus 11 is 25. Okay, I don't want to see double. I want to just see one of them. I don't want double vision, but it's squared. That's x minus 6 squared equals 25. Okay, so we factored and we kind of rewrote it. Rewrote it with the squared. I'll just do like that. Okay, now we're going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so let me do that in a different color. Because I'm trying to get to that x. I've got to kind of peel away everything except for the x. I've got to get rid of the squared and the negative 6. If I take the square root of one side of the equal sign, I've got to take the square root of the other side. So now we get plain old x minus 6 equals, what's the square root of 25? It's plus or minus 5. Okay, we're kind of sloppy in the past. Sometimes with square roots, we don't always use that plus or minus, but now it's time to start using plus or minus. All right, let's see here, trying to move this down a little bit. Okay, we're almost done. So we add 6 to both sides. Okay, so now we just kind of solve. We just finish out our solving. 6 plus or minus 5. So 6 plus 5 is 11. And 6 minus 5 is 1. So x equals 11, x equals 1. That's where the parabola is crossing the x-axis at 11 and 1. Okay. I'm going to work 2 more. One more. Probably one more. Okay. So I'll wait a second if you're copying down notes. Hopefully you got these steps written down. I think that will help you. All right. If you need to pause the video, you can pause it. Okay, first step is to move the C. Punt that C over to the other side. This is football season. We'll use football terms. Punt. Okay, now we have x squared plus 20x, leave a blank, equals 21, and we're going to have a blank there, okay? So now we're going to figure out b divided by 2 squared. I'm going to go over here and figure that out. What is our b? Our b is 20, okay? B divided by 2 squared. So 20 divided by 2 squared. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 squared is 100. Okay, sometimes guys you tend to think, oh, I got this. This is easy. And you go a little fast and a little bit faster than what you need to go. So slow down a little bit so you don't make those careless mistakes, or you at least can lessen them. Okay, so we have adding 100 to both sides. Okay, we're going to factor this side. We get 121 there. Okay, now we're going to factor. Okay, what multiplies to 100? I meant to change colors and I didn't. That adds to 10. Okay, this is kind of a clue what goes here. Okay, it's 10 and 10. Okay, now we don't want to see double, so rewrite it, look, with a squared. It's x plus 10 squared equals 121. Hopefully you've already kind of seen that 121 and that rings a bell to you. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides. Okay. I'll use green this time. Okay, so the square root and squared undo each other, so then you just have what I call the guts. There's a math term for that. Okay, the square root of 121 is 11, but it's plus or minus 11. Okay, you should know 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. Okay, you should know all your double multiplication facts. Now we're just going to solve minus 10. Okay, so x equals negative 10 plus or minus 11. And so we get a negative 10 plus 11 is 1. Negative 10 plus 11 is 1. And then negative 10 minus 11 is negative 21. And bam, we're done. Okay? Okay. So that's completing the square. We're going to do, on the next completing the square notes, our answers will be a little bit different here, but they'll be doable because you've already had a little experience with it with the quadratic formula. Okay? All right.